Sometimes in specific games, you don't have to worry about dying. Today, we're here to talk about some of those, 10 in fact, but honestly, there are a lot of games with no death. Like obviously you don't die in FIFA or Madden because you're just doing a sports thing. We tried to choose some games that had some interesting reasons behind the no death. Starting off with number 10, we have Firewatch. Now this is obvious because it's a story-based game, but there's still an underlying sense of mystery throughout the story. There are moments where you think maybe I could die, but really the game drops a death mechanic in favor of an incredible story about a journey of a man named Henry and his new job as fire lookout in a national forest. It's only him in the lonely yet beautiful woods and the occasional response from his supervisor Delilah on his walkie-talkie. But something strange is afoot. What starts simple really becomes a beautiful human story and actually grapples with the concept of death in the narrative. Really, we're throwing this one in at the top because it's just such a good story that not enough people experience, so yeah, go play Firewatch. Coming in at number 9, we really want to talk about Braid. This neat little platformer comes to the same dev that brought us The Witness. Game's quite a looker too. It's got a painterly art style and you can't die. It is a blast to play. You travel through a whole bunch of different worlds looking to save a princess, and you also have the ability to manipulate time, which you're making use of to solve puzzles. Each world actually has its own time-based mechanic, so the gameplay does vary quite a bit. Like some objects aren't affected by your time manipulation, for instance, and you can also get a ring that you can drop down that only manipulates part of the level that are around it, so it will slow down time for you or enemies that are near it. So there's more to it than just rewinding time, which is something that you can do, and that's probably one of the more interesting aspects of the game. Not actually manipulating time, but how you manipulate time. And obviously with the ability to manipulate time kind of comes the ability to not die, seeing that you can time manipulate the scenario and oops your way right out of there. Braid is definitely an indie game that will be remembered, seeing that it does some pretty interesting stuff with its gameplay. At number 8, most post-apocalyptic games are pretty grim. They're usually super depressing and everything in the game world is out to get you. Whether it's bandits or clickers or the freakers in Days Gone, or literally everyone and everything in Fallout. These game worlds are usually super stressful and you spend most of your time looking over to your shoulder, trying to not die. Submerged is a game that kind of changes that for this genre because you literally cannot die. It's a third-person combat-free game where you're exploring a flooded city, trying to keep your wounded brother alive. You navigate through your city on a fishing boat, only getting out to climb up tall buildings, looking for supplies as you go along. There are no enemies in Submerged. There's actually no enemies in the game at all that would even try to chase you or attempt to kill you. There's no threat, not even drowning. Submerged is more about the experience of exploring and navigating this ravaged, sunken, but still beautiful city, taking your surroundings in as you make your way through it. The climbing is a real threat here, and some of the climbing parts are almost puzzle-like. It really is a nice change of pace for a game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. Being able to explore without any threat, taking in the scenery and moving at a calm pace, honestly is very nice. At number 7, we're going to be talking about Shadow of Mordor, which actually handles death in a really interesting way. First off, you play as Talion, a ranger who dies by the Black Hand during a ritual to summon Celebrimbor. After watching the murder of his family, Celebrimbor is summoned, but not in a way that works out for the Black Hand. Instead, he fuses with Talion and brings him back to life, making him a wraith of sorts. Alive, but not really alive, but also not totally dead. So seeing that you aren't technically alive, you can't really die. Seeing that Celebrimbor revives you. You can lose in combat and have to start over, but the way death or losing is handled here is pretty different than other games. Shadow of Mordor has something called the Nemesis system, which is kind of like a ranking system for orcs. These orcs can rise through the ranks, becoming more powerful, changing in appearance, which each one having its own set of strengths and weaknesses. Every single time you die, it changes. So if you get killed by a random orc, it doesn't go unnoticed, and that orc can now begin to rise through the ranks, which makes losing not that big of a deal, because it dynamically changes the game and keeps you on your toes. I'm honestly super surprised other games haven't included this in some way, shape, or form, because it's truly a brilliant system. Moving on to number 6, we have Never Dead, which is a weird one. I mean, the title of the game kind of says it all, right? I mean, never dead, so you never die. You can't be dead because you were never dead. You play as Bryce, a demon hunter who's cursed with immortality. They go all in with it too. Like you can lose limbs and reattach them later. So if you lose a leg, you can hop around on one leg for a while still fighting off enemies. You actually lose all of your body parts down to your head. Then you're just a head rolling around, looking for some limbs so it can become whole again. It's kind of Deadpool-esque. Now that I think about it, Bryce is a wisecracking shooty man who can lose his limbs, reattach them, and not die, which is literally Deadpool. Yeah, we know this game is like a fine, but it's a cool mechanic, and it makes for a good time. Rolling around as a head looking for limbs, it's really weird. If you really want to see the limb loss mechanic in that Deadpool game, this might be worth checking out. Alright, so moving on to number 5, we have Prince of Persia. Nope, not Sands of Time, but the 2008 reboot with that crazy art style. This one had you playing as a new prince, which was actually just a scrappy, nameless adventurer out there in search of fortune and the like, who early on in his travels comes across a woman named Ilika, who's being chased and eventually cornered by soldiers. So obviously he helps her out, and she becomes his traveling companion and partner for the game as they go about their adventure. As it turns out, she has a bunch of cool magic powers that can be used to do things like aid in traversal, help you out in combat, most importantly, the reason it's on this list, save you from death. The first time you fall into a pit, seemingly to your death, she reaches out a hand and pulls the prince back up to solid ground. And what you think at the time, this must be a cool tutorial aid. It's actually just how the game works though. She'll just keep doing it. Fall into another pit, she's got you. Jump off a tower and see yourself plummeting towards an untimely death. She has got you. She's gonna save your ass. And then there's no limit to how many times she can save you either, so conventional video game death isn't really a thing here. That being said, there is an achievement for being saved less than 100 times in a single playthrough, so there is some reward for not failing, but hey, who are we to judge? Next, number 4 is Animal Crossing, a game that's all about hanging out, having a good time, and just building up your life. There really isn't much of a plot here, there's a tiny bit of narrative, but it's really just about living your best life. The game also runs in real time, so you don't have to pick up the game for a week. A week is actually passed in the game. Holidays happen on games when they happen in real life. There's scheduled events that you have to attend. And I know that might sound annoying, I get it, but it's actually pretty cool. It makes picking up the game that much easier, surprisingly. And that death that Tom Nook dumps on you is actually the scariest thing in the game. There aren't any enemies or true obstacles or something that's going to kill you because you straight up can't die in the game. The worst thing that can happen to you in Animal Crossing is you make a fellow villager sad or something. It's about having a good time, hanging out, and just making your house as cool as it can be. Next up at number 3, we have Pokemon. All the mainline entries, because in one of those Pokemon Ranger games, I'm pretty sure you can actually drown. So yeah, we're talking like red, blue, gold, silver, sword, shield, you know, the big ones. So you and your Pokemon can actually die in these games. Yeah, when your Pokemon loses, it faints, which is actually horrible, and I think it's kind of borderline animal abuse. Like, you love your Pokemon, right? So why are you making them fight other Pokemon? You bet on these fights too, which is extra messed up. This is a children's game. It's for kids. We're teaching children how to make their pets fight and profit off of it. Sorry for the rant. After you make all of your cute, lovable Pokemon fight and then faint, upon losing the last one, the player actually whites out and you wake up in the nearest Pokemon Center. So I guess you pass out from embarrassment, or you're just really sad that your Pokemon just got beat up. Your fault. Oh, and you always wake up missing half your money. So you do bet, so that makes sense, but you also white out. So is the competing trainer usually a child? Do they roll you over and just reach into your pocket and get what they're owed, or like right out of your lifeless body? I don't know, the more I think about Pokemon, the more messed up it seems. At number 2, in Journey, you play as a rogue wanderer who is making their way through the desert, trying to make it to a big mountain off in the distance. Along the way, you can run into other wanderers and they're connected to your game temporarily. You can communicate through signs or help them out by activating pieces of scarves that help show them the way. But that was it. Communicating with other players wasn't necessary. You don't have to interact to progress. Like, it was more there to show you that you weren't alone, that you were the only person on this journey. It's a cool experience. It's one that's really calming and it makes you feel safe because everything's way more enjoyable when the constant threat of death isn't looming over your head. You couldn't fall off a cliff to your death. There weren't any enemies or bosses around that could hurt you or kill you. You at least start at point A and you're trying to make your way to point B, and you might make some friends along the way. It's very peaceful, and I think if the game had that threat of death, it would kind of defeat the purpose of the whole game. That's what's so charming about the game. You're just on this common journey. It's almost, honestly, meditative. Finally, number 1, Death Stranding is weird, man. We love it over here, but there is no denying it is weird. The gameplay, the narrative, the characters, it's all weird. So you might be asking, what exactly is Death Stranding? Well, it's kind of like a new Big Bang, except this time it's not focused on creating life, it's more focused on destroying life and focused on death. When people die, they now explode and become BTs, which are kind of like tar ghosts. The rain deteriorates anything it touches, and you'll actually rapidly age if you're stuck in it. So everything is death. The world sucks now. Everyone's living in underground bunkers, afraid to go outside because death is everywhere. And how the game handles death, like straight up dying, is also weird and very Kojima. So Sam, the playable character, is a repatriate, which in Death Stranding means you can't die. When you die, you get sent to a place called the Seam, which is kind of like a purgatory, not to be confused with the beaches, which is also kind of like a purgatory, which is a whole other thing. But yes, Sam has the ability to guide his soul through the Seam and bring his physical body back to life. Just like that. Now, technically, there is a game over screen if you die in quick succession, but that's just video game rules. So yeah, it's out there. There's a lot to take in and a lot to explain, and we don't really have the time to do it right now. While it is weird, it's at least interesting, and playing Death Stranding and having the world explained to you more and more as you go on, it's actually awesome. One of the best parts of the game. And those are 10 games that you can't die in. But we want to hear from you. Meet us down in the comments. Let us know what you think. I'm sure there's a game or two we missed. We'd love to hear from you. As I'm sure you already know, hitting the like button really helps us out. And if you're new here, subscribe is a good idea because we put out videos like this every single day. As always, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.